this is something that could topple a multi-billion-dollar company in the UFC. The alleged fixed fight betting scandal surrounding the UFC in the past few days is starting to come to a head. And Dana White has commented on it, so we have to catch up on that, but there's plenty of other things for us to catch up on as well. And frankly, it's starting to feel like some organized crime family type of shit. That's why I got my Tony Soprano shirt on right here. But we have so much to get to. So strap in, because this is going to be a long one. We got some shit to get to, all right? We have potential fixed fights, managers, judges, the UFC even potentially being involved. And before we get into the meat of this video, I have to say something very, very important. This is all very delicate information that is being talked about in this video. Everything that I say in this video is a matter of opinion, reaction, and commentary to things that I have seen on the internet. By no means are these allegations meant to be taken seriously in any sort of legal or slanderous matter. This is all 100% opinion. Like MMA Guru said as well in his video, I am playing a character for a YouTube channel. None of my opinion is meant to be taken seriously, all right? So there's my disclaimer. This is purely speculation and opinion. There, I said it once, and it applies to everything I am going to say in this video, all right? So let's get into it. If this is your first time seeing my channel, my name is Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. Let's get into the details of the UFC betting scandal. All right, so if you have missed my last couple videos covering this topic, just to catch you up very, very quickly, I have a couple other videos you can go watch if you want to get more into the nuts and bolts of what's happened so far. This video is mostly, almost exclusively going to be covering new information, but very quickly to catch you up, Isaac Dulgarian, UFC prelim fighter this past weekend, at UFC Fight Night, Onama versus Garcia, lost his fight to Yadir Del Valle via first round submission, despite being the favorite and it being very, very, very unlikely odds that he would lose via first round submission. He gave a piss poor effort in the fight and he was released by the UFC afterwards. Now, of course, it was the last fight on his contract. He trains out of the gym that James Krause is from. He trained under James Krause. And he even said in Fight Week on an interview that fighters should get a percentage of winning bets. And of course, the line moved very quickly. Right before the fight, he was cut from the UFC following the fight. The first thing that we are going to get to is that Dana White has finally broken his silence on the UFC betting scandal. And this was basically the last piece of the puzzle in this story, was hearing something from the UFC brass about the scandal. This is what Dana White had to say. I'm going to be pausing it here and there just to comment on what Dana White had to say, and then we'll get into some other information as well. So without further ado, Dana White on TMZ Sports talking about meeting with the FBI about the betting scandal.
Probably about 1 o'clock that day, we're with a company called IC360, and they are the best bet monitoring company in the business. And they reached out to us and they told us that there was some unusual action going on with that fight. Do we know anything? You know, we didn't. So what we did was we called the fighter and his lawyer and said, what's going on? There's some weird action going on in your bet, weird betting action going on in your fight. Are you injured? Do you owe anybody money? Has anybody approached you to, you know, and the kid said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to kill this guy. And, you know.
So first off, I did do a little bit of research on IC360. They work with the NFL. They work with the UFC. They work with a lot of major sports leagues to monitor betting. They are a betting integrity company, for lack of a better word. By all markers that I could tell based on my research, they are the cream of the crop, top of the line, the most respected name in betting integrity when it comes to sports. The first thing that catches my attention is Dana White saying, we immediately called Isaac Dulgarian and his lawyer. Now, this seems suspicious to me because within an hour or two before the fight, all of this suspicious betting activity took place. And one, how did they get in touch with his lawyer so fast? Two, how do they even know who his lawyer is? And three, does he even have a fucking lawyer? Isaac Dulgarian was a Apex prelim fighter on probably a 12-12 contract. How the fuck does he have a lawyer on retainer? And how is the UFC going to get him on the phone within 30 seconds, or I'm sorry, 30 minutes? I mean, do they literally have the bar available to them where they go, oh, that's the guy, give him a call? Does the management have a lawyer on retainer? That's my first question, is it sounds like bullshit that a 10-10, 12-12 contract Apex prelim fighter has a lawyer willing and ready to answer the call from the UFC when an alleged betting scandal takes place. Now, of course, there is the flip side of this, that he might actually have a lawyer and he was ready to go. Like, he lawyered up that fast, meaning he was expecting something to come of the illegal betting lines and activity from this fight. So one, either Dana just straight up lied. That's what I'm saying. Dana either just straight up lied and said that they spoke to a lawyer that they didn't speak to a lawyer that doesn't exist, because a 10-10 contract fighter is not going to have a lawyer on retainer. Or Isaac Dolgarian was lawyered up before the fight and Dana was telling the truth. And this makes Isaac Dolgarian look really, really bad. Like, why do you have a lawyer on retainer? You're not Conor McGregor with that type of money or notoriety where you're going to be facing lawsuits left and right to where you need a lawyer on retainer. Why did you have that? So either Dana lied or Isaac Dolgarian's, in my opinion, guilty as fuck for lawyering up before the fight even took place.
We said, okay, the fight plays out, and first round finish by rear naked choke. Literally, the first thing we did was call the FBI. So we called the FBI. I've met with the FBI twice today. So that's the whole thing. Now you see people out there talking, oh, there's hundreds of fights under, it's total bullshit.
The person that said that there was hundreds of fights under investigation was a journalist by the name of Mack, who I covered him in a couple previous videos in regards to this scandal. He will be coming back around in this video as well. He has done a little bit of a media tour since this. He spoke with Submission Radio. We'll get to that later. That hundreds of fights have been flagged for suspicious betting activity by IC360 and the feds. That came from Mack, and his information has been all good so far. So while Dana White is going to try and control the narrative and make this look like an isolated incident, it seems pretty straightforward to me, based on Mack's info being good to this point, that he is on point about the hundreds of fights, or, tens of 20s or hundreds of fights being flagged for suspicious gambling activity. What Dana White, in my opinion, is trying to do here is make this seem like a 100% isolated case specific to Isaac Dolgarian, so that they can protect the integrity of the UFC, one, in the public eye, and two, in Paramount Plus's eyes, because Paramount Plus is about to start forking over $1.1 billion a year for the next 7 years for the UFC broadcasting rights. And this is where it gets a little bit scary for Dana, is that he has to do damage control, in my opinion, has to do damage control here and make it seem like this is not a systemic, rampant issue in the UFC, and that this is specific to Isaac Dolgarian. And even if it is specific and isolated to Isaac Dolgarian has some weird ties to Dana White, which we'll get to momentarily.
Total usual clickbait bullshit. IC360, our company, they monitor all of the betting. Like I said, they're the best in the business. There aren't hundreds of fights being investigated. All clickbait BS. So this company, IC360, which is the best bet monitoring company in the business, we've been with them for years, and we get a report after every single fight that we do. So for anybody out there that's clickbait saying, oh, there's hundreds of fights, it's all bullshit. We've been with these guys for years. We take this very serious, and we're watching every single fight that happens in the UFC, from the first prelim to the main event. So when this did happen, a couple of years ago, whenever it was, that investigation is still ongoing, and now will be a part of this investigation too.
Now, that is in reference to the James Krause investigation, the betting scandal that involved Derek Minner. Now, that case is still open. Isaac Dolgarian used to train under James Krause. So now this investigation and case is starting to look a lot broader. And even though Dana White says this is an isolated case, that's the picture that the UFC is going to paint. They're going to paint it out to be one group of fighters out of one gym. They're going to paint it out to be just this one fight, just this one guy, just this one coach, because that protects the UFC in the public eye. This doesn't make the UFC look bad if they can paint that narrative, in my opinion. it makes James Krause, Isaac Dolgarian, Glory MMA, and Factory X Muay Thai and MMA look very bad. So damage control by Dana White.
Kind of the FBI, are you directly talking to Kash Patel? I'm sure you do have a relationship.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning, but then we just had an office full of FBI agents in here. So, you know, we if you try to do this, I've been very vocal and very open about this. We will be your worst enemy. We will immediately go after you, guns a-blazing, with the FBI and whoever else we need to get. And we will do everything we can to make sure you go to prison. It's like, you know, you're seeing things out on the internet where like fighters are coming out and going, "Oh, I was approached. Really? Why didn't you tell us that? Or more importantly, why didn't you tell law enforcement that you were approached? Now you're saying that you were approached? It's like if somebody comes up and says, hey.
Now Dana White is going to paint the rest of these fighters that have spoken up, such as Vince Morales, Vanessa Demopoulos. Those fighters have all come out and said they were offered money. Dana White is going to try to paint those fighters as liars because it's going to hurt his case and hurt his argument that this is an isolated incident.
I want you to rob a bank. I'm going to rob banks. Want to rob a bank with me? And you don't do it. What, you're not gonna tell law enforcement? It's really weird that fighters are coming out now saying they were approached, and they're going to be approached now by the FBI.
We see this going on in other sports, what the NBA is dealing with right now. As the person who runs the most prominent promotion in this sport, you just hate to see something like this, right? Whether the UFC or any other sport.
I hate to see anybody in our sport do anything illegal, you know, but fight fixing.
Except for Conor McGregor sexually assaulting women, punching people in nightclubs, and John Jones beating the shit out of his wife. He defends those guys plenty, but anyways.
Absolutely insane. To get to this level and go out and be a part of fight. And I'm not saying this kid's guilty. You know what I mean? There's no proof that he's done this yet, but I can tell you this, it doesn't look good. It definitely doesn't look good.
So he's saying it doesn't look good in regards to Isaac Dolgarian, but for everybody else involved, it's total BS. They're saying shit. Oh, why didn't you come out sooner? But for Isaac Dolgarian, it's not looking good. Interesting.
You know, we approached him before the fight, he and his lawyer, and they denied that anything, you know, from everything. Are you hurt? You know, are you injured in any way? Do you owe people money? Have you been asked to do anything, you know, illegal? We asked them all the questions and everything was absolutely not, hell no. So the fight went on. And then, like I said, fight ended by finish.
And that's also just funny that they call the guy, they call Isaac Dolgarian, and he goes, no, I'm not doing anything. Like literally it's like asking somebody if they committed a crime and they go, no, I didn't do it. And then they go, okay, cool. Case closed. Hey guys, let's wrap it up. Case is closed. No need to investigate. The guy that's accused of the crime said he didn't do it. Let's wrap it up, close it down. No investigation, anything. He can go on his merry way. That's essentially what Dana White is saying happened here, that the guy that is accused of this said, no, I'm not doing anything wrong. And they go, all right, cool guys, let's go. Let the fight go on. Let the fight go on.
First round, literally walked out from the octagon into my room in the back and called the FBI.
So there's Dana White's take on it, and there's a lot to unpack there. I just spoke about most of it, but I'm not too sure what the truth is. Either Dana is BSing, in my opinion, that there even is a lawyer, or there was a lawyer and Isaac Dolgarian is guilty as fuck, in my opinion. Now, bringing things back around to the now infamous Harry Mack, the journalist that has reported on this quite a bit. He was talking about the handles that were placed, or the bets that were placed on this fight. Here he is explaining it right here.
Round one finish prop drops from around plus 900 to close to plus 200. So obviously that's going to raise some eyebrows. What precipitated, I guess, this becoming the problem it has is 5 bets that were placed at the Hard Rock retail that basically pushed things over the edge. The final handle on the Dolgarian fight was $16 million.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure.
For those of you that are not betting men, I mean, I'm not a betting man myself, actually, but For those of you that don't understand anything about betting, a $16 million bet on an Apex fucking prelim is preposterous because you have lower level fights with less experienced fighters. It's far more unpredictable as to how the fight's going to go. So it's putting $16 million on one Apex prelim fight, and you're putting it on bets such as round one finish for Del Valle or Isaac Dolgarian to lose. It seems like whoever put that money down had a very, very good idea as to what was going to happen in the fight.
I know you're a gambling guy. For everybody at home, I really cannot contextualize how preposterous a $16 million handle on a Apex prelim is. We're talking about like an NBA game or a lower tier NFL game. Like that in and of itself is going to raise flags.
And that's exactly what it did. It raised flags. And honestly, shout out to Harry Mack. He has taken a fucking beating on social media from the likes of Chael Sonnen and other UFC paid mouthpieces, in my opinion, that are defending the UFC and discrediting his work and his investigation. And so far, his info has been good. So shout out to him. Hopefully he ain't getting knocked off. You know what I'm saying? Because we're getting into that territory. We're getting into Sopranos territory. And in my opinion, he's the only one of like in the journalist category. I know there's a lot of people calling me a journalist these days because of like what I've been covering. I've always just considered myself a YouTuber. I mean, but okay. So, I mean, basically me, him, Ariel Helwani, MMA Guru, a couple other people, Brutally Honest MMA, a few other good pages have been covering this, and MMA Che as well. A lot of YouTuber type pages and non-UFC affiliated journalists, not the MMA junkies, MMA fighting, ESPN MMA, Mack Life Official, anybody like that has really been covering the nuts and bolts. They've essentially just posted the UFC statement on the matter and the fact that Isaac Dolgarian got cut. So shout out to the YouTubers and journalists that are in the same lane as myself fighting the good fight, doing the good work on this type of thing, because this is bringing the integrity of the entire sport into question, and we can't just let that shit slide. So shout out to Harry Mack. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members-only live streams, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. And now we move on to one of the most suspicious parts of all of this is Isaac Dolgarian, early in his career, had talked about how him and his wife were living in an RV, like in the gym parking lot or something like that. Like they were living in an RV while he had a child on the way. At Steve Will Do It got us out the RV. Interesting. Very interesting. Very suspicious. And this is not new, okay? This is from April 20th, 2024, as you can see right there at the bottom. And this, at the time, people go, oh yeah, shout out Steve Will Do It, doing the good shit for the fighters. These fighters are underpaid. He's helping them out. And Steve Will Do It is gambling buddies and friends with Dana White. So why is a gambling buddy of Dana White sponsoring some random UFC fighter with a house? And of course, Dana White's going to defend this himself because he's a degenerate gambling addict himself. Of course, he's going to defend this because he can't have people go, fixed UFC fights, illegal sports gambling, gambling addict, and do 1 + 1 = 2 and see that Dana White, in my opinion, could also be involved in this. Part of me thinks no, because he has a very low effort job at this point. Hunter Campbell does most of the work that people think Dana White does. So Dana White just has this kind of like forever, like never ending money glitch of being the face of the UFC, but really just having to do like press conferences, fly around the world, be the face of it. But he's not making any real business decisions. It's all Hunter Campbell. And so why is Dana White's gambling buddy sponsoring this fighter who happens to be embroiled in a betting scandal? We need answers on this. It's really small. I had to zoom in quite a bit. I don't know why it's this small, but this right here is Isaac Dolgarian shouting out Steve Will Do It again, a second time. He did it on Twitter and now in an interview saying, thanks for the house.
Well, what are these things? Can you reveal to us what happened?
Well, I got this beautiful house.
Oh, of course.
My sponsor, Steve Will Do It, helped me out a lot on that,
My sponsor, Steve Will Do It, helped me out a lot on that.
And yeah, I just have I'm getting all the recovery and stuff that I should have been getting before that I couldn't necessarily afford. So yeah, man, I'm just happier. I have my daughter now with me, and yeah, everything's just looking up since that fight. I actually had Zach Ryan. He messaged me after my fight. Cool, he's an awesome country singer, and he helped me out with some he helped me out a little bit for losing that fight because he thought I won as well. So that was amazing.
And apparently Zach Bryan, the country singer, is also sending this guy money. It doesn't make sense. Like, what kind of dirt does this guy have on people to where they're just sending him money? Now, the next sketchy piece of this puzzle comes in the form of Mark Montoya, the head coach at Factory X, the former head coach of James Krause, the current head coach of Isaac Dulgarian, actually now former because they split ways, coach of multiple fighters that have been caught up in gambling scandals, going on the Ariel Helwani show to defend himself. And in my opinion, absolute train wreck of an interview. This is him right here talking about his integrities in question and all of that. This is what he had to say.
We clear the air. You know, my gym is being attacked, my integrity is being attacked, and I just want to first and foremost say we have nothing to do with any of these allegations that are being brought upon us. People have asked me what my opinions are. To speculate right now is not my job. You know, my job is to right now continue to lead and not react. And
is it just me, or does it look like he's reading a statement? Because it kind of looks like he's reading a pre-written script, and that would make me think he has a lawyer. But if he had a lawyer, he would fucking avoid media right now because you know the FBI is going to come calling.
With that said, you know, we as a team, myself as a person, I've never been involved in any type of betting format. I've actually never even placed a sports bet in my entire life. I couldn't tell you how to do it. And so, you know,
it literally looks like he's reading a statement. So he denies any involvement in not just this scandal, but sports betting in general ever in his life. And later on in the interview, at about the 11-minute mark, he says some pretty suspicious things that Ariel catches on to and calls out immediately.
Have you talked to him since the fight? Now that the dust is settled, all of this has come out. Have you guys had a conversation?
We had a conversation on Sunday. It was real brief. The conversation was that he was cut from the UFC, and unfortunately, there's an investigation that is being had, and you know, ultimately, that you know he's not part of this Factory X team because of everything going on, and that was ultimately the conversation.
Okay, so you made the decision to release him from the team?
Ariel, whether he's
dodges the question, completely dodges the question.
He's guilty or he's innocent. In my prediction, Isaac Dulgarian is not going to fight again. And so
that's kind of interesting to me because this is a fighter that makes his living fighting. And he says right here, innocent or guilty, he's not going to fight again, which tells me Isaac Dulgarian might have got a fucking vicious bag to throw this fight, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's just my interpretation of what Mark Montoya said. Let me play it again. You guys make up your own mind.
Release him from the team?
Ariel, whether he's guilty or he's innocent, in my prediction, Isaac Dulgarian is not going to fight again. And so does it really matter where he claims where he's training? You know, ultimately, where we sit today is in just a crazy mess with all these allegations. And so the least of his concerns right now would be where he's at and where he's training. That
just doesn't sound right to me. Of course, it's the least of Isaac Dulgarian's worries, but why is Mark Montoya kind of shrugging that off so much? It's very, very suspicious to me.
I understand that, but I mean, if it is found that he is not guilty, why wouldn't he? I mean, he's still a great fighter. Not that long ago. So, you know, even Derek Minner, who was involved in a situation like this 3 years ago, came back to fight outside of the UFC. And so I think it speaks volumes if you do part ways with him, because why would someone want someone who is potentially involved with something like that in the gym?
Ultimately, I can't speculate. You know, that's the FBI's job. I'm waiting just like you are.
It's not the FBI's job to determine whether or not Isaac Dulgarian trains at your gym. That's just my take. That's just my take. If Isaac Dulgarian was to be proved innocent here, why would you not welcome back to the team? If he was welcome before and he ends up being innocent, why would you not welcome back? That's not the FBI's determination, in my opinion.
And the rest of these people are to figure out whether or not this is true. And so, where he goes. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I can't speculate. It's not my job. That's the FBI's job. They're going to, you know, really only Ariel, God, and Isaac know the truth. And the FBI obviously is going to investigate this. and they're going to find out whether this happened.
Now, let me just say, this is a little bit juicy and I can't reveal my source here. Say whatever you want. Bullshit, not bullshit. Sources have spoken to me and they must remain anonymous. They will not get revealed. Sources have revealed to me that there is a group of people, multiple people, that Isaac Dulgarian may have admitted to fixing the fight to. Now, whether that be his family, his managers, his coaches, I would say that it is more, much more, I'd say very confidently, based on the information that I have behind the scenes, that more than just God and Isaac Dulgarian know the truth about what happened on Saturday night. Now, of course, that is a good cop-out, but I have it on very good authority that Isaac Dulgarian, in private, has admitted to this. Now, again, everything is an allegation. This is just my opinion, and this is all just hearsay. This is not something to incriminate Isaac Dulgarian further or say that he's guilty or not. All of it is just my opinion and my interpretation of information that I've come across. Now, if anybody would know whether or not this is true, I would say that his head coach that decided to release him from the team probably knows the answer.
Happens or not. And like I said, I just pray for Isaac and his family that, it's not true. But ultimately I got to sit and wait just like everybody else.
If it's not true, would you advise him to come back to the gym and resume his career?
Good question.
I would have to cross that bridge when we got there. I couldn't, I have no idea. I'd have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Do you have any idea? So you said you spoke to him on Sunday. Do you have any idea how he's doing 2 days later? Obviously, this is a massive story now. Have you spoken to him or checked in on him?
I haven't spoke to him recently.
I haven't spoken to him recently, or I haven't spoken to him since Sunday, which is 3 days ago.
Like I said, I spoke to him on Sunday, and that was the end of our conversation. I haven't spoke to him, as you can tell and figure. There's been a lot going on here, and so a lot on my plate. And for me, my job is to lead and not react, and I need to be able to continue to be a great leader for all of my team. I need to be a great leader for my family. And like I said, my job is to train these guys to win, man. My job is to train these guys to win in life. And so
Now, of course, he's trying to shift this away from the betting scandal, but, we had some major departures from Factory X, MMA, and Muay Thai recently. Brandon Royval, Alexander Hernandez, a few other guys left that gym earlier this year to go and do their own thing. Brandon Royval, Alexander Hernandez, those guys left that gym and they now train as like a small team in Denver. They spend time at the Pine Tree UFC gym getting their Lone Tree, Pine Tree. I can't remember. I think it's Lone Tree, Lone Pine, something like that. It's in the Denver area. And there's a UFC gym there that, not to totally blow it out of the water, but they posted on their own, so it's no big deal. They train out of the UFC gym in the area, not at like a big MMA gym. They train in a small group. They left that gym earlier this year. And that makes me question, did people like Brandon Royval, Alexander Hernandez, did they get offered to be a part of this betting ring or potential alleged betting scandal that could be taking place amongst the team at Factory X Muay Thai? And they said, no, I can't do this. I take my fight career seriously. That's for us to figure out later. That's maybe for them to speculate. They probably won't comment on it. But if they do want to speak on it, my Instagram DMs are open. Email is down below if you want to reach out to me with any tips down below. But in my opinion, it's very suspicious that some prominent fighters from that gym depart from the gym to form their own small team in the same area. So it's not like they didn't like living in Denver, anything like that. They depart the team earlier this year, and all of a sudden, this is what's coming out. And it looks like it could be a rampant thing at Factory X Muay Thai. Now, of course, this is all hearsay. Nobody's been proven guilty yet. Innocent until proven guilty, of course. But it seems very suspicious that some big names left the gym and now this comes out later this year.
I need to continue to lead that way and not react.
What's been the mood like at the gym the last 2 days?
Oh, the mood is these guys. We all have a chip on our shoulder. We don't want to be.
We all have a chip on our shoulder, or we're all fucking worried shitless that the FBI is going to pop up.
We don't want to be lumped into any type of allegation when it's untrue. We are not part of any of this alleged thing that's going on. And so there's a chip on our shoulders because if you're being wrongly accused of something, the biggest reason I'm here and speaking with you is because I want to shout from the mountaintops that myself and my team, my coaching staff, we have nothing to do with this situation.
Of course, you want to shout from the mountaintops that you're innocent when you could be facing a fucking FBI probe. What I've heard behind the scenes is that whoever potentially allegedly paid Isaac Dolgarian this money actually wanted him to lose by TKO, and he said he couldn't do it in front of his family. I don't know if that's true or not. That's the information that I've received behind the scenes. Again, anonymous sources have reached out to me, and apparently he said, nah, I can't do TKO in front of my wife and kids. I can't do that in front of my family and friends, but I could get subbed. Apparently, allegedly, apparently, nothing has been proven. I cannot stress this enough.
Somebody else's decisions or what they did or didn't do, I can't control, unfortunately. I try to lead the best I can, but ultimately, we want what's best for of course, all the people we're surrounded by, but we need to continue to look forward. I mean, the bottom line is, if we keep looking backwards, how do we move the ball forward? And so
it's hard to look forward when you're involved in a alleged betting scandal, fixed fight ring. Of course you want to look forward, but the internet, the MMA community, law enforcement potentially is not going to let you move forward yet. Of course, you'd like to leave Isaac Dolgarian in the rearview mirror, but hey, James Krause was your fighter. James Krause left, started his own gym. When he got banned because of a betting scandal, those fighters came over to Factory X and they fight for you now, Mark Montoya. So of course, you'd like to look past this, but the fact of the matter is your gym and fighters that you coach are caught up in this scandal for the second time in 3 years. And this actually really sucks because I've watched Mark Montoya give some of the best corner advice, give some of the best coaching. I love his demeanor in the corner. I hope he's not involved. But from watching this interview, specifically my own opinion is that he at least knew about it. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. Now, Ariel Helwani has talked about this quite a bit. Again, in my opinion, the most respectable, serious journalist in this space that vets his sources, protects his sources, gets the inside scoop and brings it forward while protecting those who gave it to him. As much as he has been embroiled in controversy with the UFC, I like Ariel a lot. I respect Ariel a lot. And I think that he's doing some really good reporting almost all the time, but especially in this case, he's doing some great reporting. So here's what he had to say.
This calls into question the integrity of a billion-dollar industry. I got a text last night which read, "Hey man, I saw you talking about people getting approached to throw fights. Wanted to chime in and say that, yeah, gamblers have approached me and I told them no. They offered me about 100K or so. It was a fight I ended up losing anyway, but there was no way I was going to compromise my integrity." Yeah, it's definitely something us fighters get approached with. I'm sure all of us have experienced it to some degree. I don't think
that directly contradicts Dana White saying that this is an isolated issue, that this only had to do with Dolgarian. That is a direct contradiction, and that makes it seem and supports my argument that Dana White wants to paint this out to be an isolated issue, even though it very clearly is not at this point.
I think Isaac Dolgarian is a bad person. He probably, based on his interviews, needed the money if in fact he did something like this, allegedly. It is so easy to get to these guys and to prey on them. And quite frankly, I just have a hard time believing that more of this isn't happening and it hasn't happened. I'm not talking about the failed attempts. I'm talking about like we have watched fixed fights.
I totally agree, because you have these guys that are on 12K and 12K contracts, 20K and 20K. They get paid for a fight. They got taxes. They got manager fees. They have nutritionists to pay. They have coaches and gyms they need to pay, private sessions. They got to pay their rent. Like, that money goes quick, especially when you're only fighting twice a year, 3 times a year, 12 and 12 contract 3 times a year. Even if you win all 3 of them, I mean, we're talking under 100K, and that's before taxes, before fees to your manager, to your gym, to your nutritionist, to this, that, the other. 96K, not even that. 12 and 12 3 times a year would be 72K. That turns into 40K because of expenses, even before you pay taxes. Then after that, in Isaac Dolgarian's case, you got kids to feed. You got a house you got to keep over your head. So I'm not saying, same thing that I've said a few times. I keep playing this devil's advocate, and I'm not saying Isaac Dolgarian's a bad guy, but rocking a hard place, man. I don't know what I would do in that situation. Frankly, if I had a hungry kid, bills to pay, and a negative account balance. I don't mean to sound like I don't have integrity, but when push comes to shove, the mortgage has got to get paid. The kid's got to eat. I don't know, man. And I don't even think Isaac Dolgarian's a bad guy for all of this. A lot of people going, oh, you have no morals, no integrity. It's like, man, we watch people fucking take brain damage for money, all right? They severely get underpaid and people still pay $80 for a pay-per-view. People still pay $10,000 for a cage side seat. So let's not take it some moral high road when it comes to gambling, all right? And on the same episode of the Ariel Helwani show, speaking about this issue, Ariel gets a text from an anonymous source.
As we are speaking right now, I get a text. I can tell you a fight that I am 100% certain was thrown and 2 others that were attempted.
Oh, man.
Call me later.
Says, call me later. Fixed Fights. Quick break. If you're loving this video and you want more from Fight Society, click that join button down below to become a channel member today, where you'll get access to members only live streams, behind the scenes vlogs, and all the unfiltered stuff that we don't post to the main channel. Back to the video. And I've seen people talking about it. The Nasruddin Imavov stoppage of Jared Cannonier, Nico Price potentially taking a dive against Robbie Lawler, Surreal Gone giving no resistance to John Jones when they fought. There's a lot to unpack here. And when you start thinking about this and you start realizing that this could be a very, very rampant and systemic issue in fighting, it makes you question every questionable stoppage, every suspicious judge's decision, every piss poor effort or dumb mistake made in a fight by a fighter, judge, referee, whoever. It's making you question the validity of this sport. Now, Isaac Dolgarian has been completely inactive on social media and even has limited his comments on posts. Sorry. Nothing here. If you see right here, comments have been limited. And so that means, only people that follow him can comment and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that when they're facing a controversy, they will seriously limit what people can say on their pages. And it seems very, very indicative of the situation and potentially his guilt that he is covering this up and not allowing people to comment on his recent posts. And this has sent the entire fight community into a frenzy. This is Show Me the Money podcast with Maddie Betts, Gilbert Burns, some of the best and funniest and most entertaining podcasters in the space. Maddie Betts, Hey Jives, all the guys that are connected with Homo Fight. I fuck with them a lot. And this is what they had to say. Hanato Moicano thinks this fight was fixed.
James Krause.
Let me ask you from a pure...
James Krause.
Did you watch the fight and did you actually think he threw it?
Yes.
And why is that?
The guy is a very good wrestler. Yeah. And on the fourth shot, like 15 seconds into the fight, he got...
It's the exact same thing I said. He had Yadier Del Valle's butt behind his feet, compromised position, and just didn't finish the takedown intentionally, in my opinion.
His hand locked on a perfect double leg, and he let the guy go.
Did this guy do anything right trying to defend the rear naked choke?
No, he was doing everything wrong. Usually, when you got that deep,
tap
like
right away. Yeah,
tap right away. For me, he was like showing. I'm gonna show that was hard.
It's the same thing that I said too. It looked like a WWE submission, like where he's like, okay, tap. Like he's trying to sell a wrestling match finish. Sketchy. I mean, hey, I was talking about this defense and wrestling here. I'm just a jiu-jitsu blue belt. Don't mind little blue belt me. Take it from UFC fighters. Take it from jiu-jitsu black belts that know specifically what they're talking about. Criticize my experience, criticize my take, whatever you want. But people in this business, working for this company in the UFC, such as Hanato Moicano, are saying this was a fixed fight. And this calls in to question the judges and the referees as well. And this is the type of thing that people are pointing out is, wow, how the fuck did Paulo Costa get a 49-46 scorecard against Sean Strickland? How did Tai Tuivasa get a 30-27 decision against Jairzinho Rosenstruck? How did a draw scorecard come from the Alexo Grasso-Valentina Shevchenko rematch? How did Chito Vera get a 48-47 on one of the judges' scorecards? And what you see right here, none of these even have Sal D'Amato's name on them, and he's one of the most criticized refs and judges in the sport. And another clip from the Home of Fight guys. This is Hey Jive Picks. He's in there with the same Home of Fight guys. Hey Jive Picks, great creator. Been following him since freaking he had 1,000 followers or something like that. Great creator. We'll expand on this as well. He says, would boosting fighter pay and benefits help the integrity of the UFC?
There's some that needs to be changed. If a fighter goes into a fight with an injury, then they can get insurance to fix that injury. So they're incentivized to fight with an injury. Not only that, they're also incentivized to fight with an injury because you're not going to get paid unless you fight. So maybe paying the fighters would help the integrity of the sport a little bit more. Maybe giving the fighters insurance year round would help the integrity of the sport. Just a thought though. Maybe we wouldn't have Jared Gordon going into a fight, getting hit by a car the day before. We might not have Lucas Almeida going into a fight with a clearly broken hand and taking possible life-altering beating to the head. Could have brain damage from that fight with Michael Aswell, just so that he could get his hand fixed with the UFC insurance and also get his $12,000 to show up. Or maybe, if Isaac Dulgarian had an injury, shouldn't have leaked it to somebody, but maybe, he wouldn't be incentivized to fight with an injury or fix the fight.
And I agree. I mean, and of course, Maddie Bet's comment right here, if you're unethical, you're unethical. I agree with that as well. There's minimum wage people that don't use that as an excuse to rob a bank or steal, but it would definitely deter some of it. And frankly, just fair treatment of the fighters. I mean, the company can afford to pay people more money. Most major sports, NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, they have a 50-50 revenue split between the fighters, or not the fighters, the players and the owners. The UFC takes home 86% of the revenue. Now, maybe, of course, they got to do this to, promote and shit like that, but 14%, that's all the fighters get. Brain damage for the rest of their life, injuries, neck problems, knee problems, hip problems, broken hands, broken fingers, broken skulls, things like that for 14% of the revenue. Sounds wrong. I'm not trying to, get on my high horse at every possible stop here. I'm not the most fucking ethical person myself. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, but pay him some fucking money, man. It's almost like Dana White is Michael Vick and the fighters are the dogs that are just fighting in Michael Vick's backyard, not getting paid. It's almost equivalent to that, almost, in my opinion. And to piggyback off of what Hey Jive Picks just said about the money that fighters make, this right here is featherweight that just fought at UFC 321, Nathaniel Wood, talking about the money. He was in debt going into one of his fights. He ended up getting his show and win money despite his opponent pulling out. And this is the story right here. It says, now, as you can imagine, I wasn't waiting on compensation money. Compensation money means the UFC does drip money to fighters periodically if they haven't gotten a fight in a while or if they're injured. They do drip small bits of money like $5,000 here or there to different fighters. Now this says, as you can imagine, I wasn't waiting on compensation money. I was getting $26K to fight and $26K to win. And at the time, I was 2,000 euros in debt. I had just forked out for something. I had a tax bill coming up and I wasn't doing the best. I was like, shit, compensation money isn't going to be great. And I was told it might be $5,000 to $10,000, said Nathaniel Wood, recalling how Dana White came through as his guardian angel of sorts. Backstage at the ceremonial weigh-ins, I see Dana White. He comes over and I said, Dana, I'm gutted. I was ready to put my life on the line. I've done everything I can and I've been told about compensation, but is that really happening? Because I really need it. And he said, being Dana White, don't worry, buddy, I'll pay you everything. So not only did he pay me for my fight purse, he also paid me the win bonus as well. Someone then came up to me and said, yeah, we'll pay you $52,000 even though we don't have to. Would describe that paycheck as life-changing money because if he hadn't gotten that purse, quote, there's a good chance that I may have had to go and get work on the side or just said enough is enough, meaning retire. Now, most people might see that and go, oh, damn, he didn't fight and he still got paid. Dana White's looking out for his fighters. He's a real one. Here's how it works, all right? The UFC cards have a budget for fighter pay. So that money is allocated regardless. When his opponent pulls out and the fight falls through, that money has still been allocated. And so if the UFC doesn't pay somebody, let's say $52,000, they're just saving 52 grand. It's not like they're forking up money that they had to just scrape together. This is money that was already allocated. And they said, you know what? This guy might be fucking homeless or stop fighting if we don't pay him. Yeah, here you go. And they're acting like it's some guardian angel saving their fighters, but really it's just money that was already allocated. Like if you had money to pay a bill and then all of a sudden your phone company or your landlord goes, don't sweat it this month, save that 2 grand. It's not like you were going to have to scrape together $2,000 if you already had the money. The money was there. The money was there. You had it ready to pay rent and they gave you a break, whatever. Not the best analogy, but it's basically saying the money was already allocated and they just said, yeah, fuck it, you can have it. It's already allocated. It's already out of our pocket. It was already in our budget plan to come out of our bank account. So before people start defending Dana or the UFC about that point, it's not like they were necessarily generous. They just said, yeah, we're going to pay out the money we promised, as opposed to, and now we get to save $52,000 or some shit like that, We have another fighter that said he was offered money to throw a fight, and this was Edgar Chairez, said UFC fighter Edgar Chairez says he was also contacted with an offer for 1 million pesos, $50K US dollars, to throw a fight. We really got to get into what's going on here. There's a few other ones, of course, like the Kawas, who John Jones is signed to, but two of the biggest management companies in combat sports, you have Iridium Sports, owned by Jason House, and you have Dominance MMA, owned by Ali Abdelaziz, who in himself is a very sketchy guy. I've covered him in my channel a bunch of times. There's probably more videos coming in the future about him. But you have Iridium Sports, owned by Jason House. We talked about him in the last video. He has come out and defended himself quite a bit. But you also have Dominance MMA, Ali Abdelaziz. Don't need to say anything further. It's Ali Abdelaziz, the sketchiest guy in combat sports. Now, what happens with something like Iridium Sports? Let's see right here. Fighting just on that card, we had David Onama, Dante Johnson, Chung Ho Lee, Themba Garimbo, Steve Garcia, Isaac Dolgarian. Something you might notice here as well, David Onama. I talked about the sketchiness of him being finished in the first round by Steve Garcia, and then also Steve Garcia being signed to the same roster. So Jason House, Iridium Sports Management, is also booking his own fighters against each other, Steve Garcia, David Onama. I'm not saying that that's necessarily bad, but what's going on here is you have managers that are in bed with the UFC, especially Jason House. He has been accused of having quote unquote familial ties to a certain UFC matchmaker. I'll leave it at that. So not only does he have a tie to the UFC, he is also booking his own fighters against each other. So he's getting cuts, he's getting management fee cuts from both of their purses. He matched them against each other, knowing what they both make, booked them against each other. And also being their manager helps them get sponsorship. And this is where things start to get really, really messy in this story, even more than the FBI being involved with a fixed fight. We got to talk about managers, referees, and judges, because this is where shit gets really sticky. You know, like Drake said, you know how sticky you get. Here you have guys on the same manager's roster fighting each other, who's a manager who allegedly has ties to UFC matchmakers. Take that with a grain of salt. Then you have those fighters shouting out skinny bets. A MMA tipper, sports betting influencer who multiple fighters have shouted out in the cage after wins. This is Drakkar Close right here.
Before that, I gotta make my money. Shout out to stake.com and my boy Skinny Bets. If you ain't betting with them, you definitely ain't making no money.
If you ain't betting with him, you definitely ain't making no money. Shout out to Stake. That's the UFC's official sponsor for gambling, their official social casino sponsor. And you also have him here, cage side with Charles Jourdain, saying that he bet on him and that he helped him win money. Now, I'm not saying this right here is incriminating by itself, but this is Skinny Bet's cage side at UFC Vancouver, dapping up Skinny Bets right here, talking about the bet that he made money on with him. And this starts to get sketchy when you look at UFC fighters shouting him out, and you have people all the way back to 2022 calling out David Onama for shouting out Skinny Bets, a betting sponsor, and also his involvement with James Krause. This right here, DSP, don't sue me, please. I like how no one has assumed Onama, also ex-Krause, hasn't done anything similar, but just passed that atrocious attempt at a performance as expected. Not saying anything weird happened, but it's funny given his own Krause connection. And I said this right away. I thought that the finish that Steve Garcia got over David Onama in the first round was sketchy by itself. But this right here says, a dude named BRM Matt last night was talking about this. Apparently in 2022, Onama was thanking a dude named Skinny Bets in his post-fight interview, and he wasn't the only fighter to do so. Only sources I can find about it are Brazilian sports news sites and SureDog forums. This right here says, the UFC fighter caused controversy for his last performance at UFC Vegas 58 after beating Garrett Armfield with a Katagame in the second round. The Ugandan thanked the sports consultant Skinny Bets for betting that the fight would end in the middle of the assault, with over 1.5 rounds. Through the quote stake platform, the expert placed about $12,000 US and had a return of $19,000 US. Thank you for your support, my brother Skinny Bets, Onama wrote in his official Instagram account. Certainly, the publication caused controversy among his followers. One user tried to warn him that the post would pick up badly for the MMA community, while another gave his contrary opinion to fighters who get involved even involuntarily with bookmakers. And even here on a SureDog forum in July of 2022. Hey guys, I hope everyone is doing well. Last night in his post-fight interview, David Onama made a call out to his guy Skinny Bets. On this guy's Instagram profile, you can see that he's an MMA tipster. On this guy's Instagram stories, you can see that he made a somehow large bet, 12 grand, on the over 1.5 rounds in the Onama fight. Onama himself shared this bet and is telling people to follow Skinny Bets because he is such a great tipster. And if you go back and watch that fight, David Onama, who typically has strong, opens strong, had a very slow first round against Garrett Armfield, and same thing, basically never got started last Saturday night against Steve Garcia. After rewatching the fight, I noticed that Onama had a very low pace in the first round and only went for the arm triangle exactly after the 2 minute and 30-second mark in the second round. The tipster also posted a video of him waiting for Onama to call him out live in the Octagon interview. This obviously tells us that he knew Onama would do this and they had some sort of deal. And that's a dead link. I already tried to click on it. And then right here, this is the second time this year I've heard a UFC fighter mention Skinny on Instagram in a post-fight. Not sure if it was Onama in his fight before last or entirely different fighter, but it seemed like it was in the last 2 to 3 months. Also, when Chris Curtis recently beat Rodolfo Vieira, one of the first things he mentioned in his post-fight speech was that he knew there were some crazy odds for him to win by decision and that we are welcome for him winning that by that method. Betting on yourself to win is 100% okay in MMA, but that's not what the original poster is talking about. The original poster is saying that a tipster might have known when a fight would finish because he paid a fighter to pull back a little so he could make a big bet at minus 150 or better instead of paying minus 800 for Onama's money line. Betting on yourself to win a fight over or under a certain time in a fight should be illegal, but not betting on your own money line. I think betting on fights in general should be illegal if you're a fighter. Now, I must say, I am not accusing Skinny Bets of anything. I am not accusing David Onama of anything. I am saying that this looks very, very fucking suspicious. This is just my opinion based on the information I've been gathering. It seems like there's a ring of some sorts, in my opinion, with managers who have ties to matchmakers allegedly, helping their fighters get sponsors, betting sponsors with people that bet on the outcome of fights and then shouting out those fighters. It seems like these managers are double, triple, quadruple dipping on these fights where they're picking up manager fees from Steve Garcia and David Onama. They're potentially taking a cut of sponsorships, and maybe they're even making bets themselves. Now, I'm not accusing Jason House specifically of doing this. I'm not accusing David Onama or Skinny Bets or Jason House or Iridium Sports, anybody. I'm not accusing them of any sort of crime or malpractice. What I am saying is this is very fucking suspicious, and it's something that should get looked into. The last point that I need to get to is the referees, because according to Harry Mack, the journalist that has been covering this very, very thoroughly and closely, Jason Herzog right here is being investigated by the feds. Apparently, there is interest in auditing Jason Herzog's fights. That's what they've said. That's what's been said. And we have Jason Herzog, who has had some very, very questionable stoppages, his handling of Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong among them, and also Dan Miragliotta. Matt Brown went off on Dan Miragliotta just 2 weeks ago saying, what the fuck are these commissions doing? Matt Brown unleashes on Dan Miragliotta and mistakes that go unpunished. A post from Tony Has Died, one of my favorite pages on Instagram and YouTube, saying how I'm watching referee Jason Herzog's fights from now on, knowing all this fight rigging shit is going on. Now, I'm not going to play the clip. You guys know the Dexter Dokes meme, but I'm not going to play the clip because it does show UFC fight footage. And my very last video got copyrighted for the UFC for showing clips of Henry Cejudo versus Song Yadong. This is the talk that's going on here, is potentially managers being involved with their fighter sponsorships, betting platforms and betting influencers and tipsters, I guess you could say, being tied in with managers and fighters. Fighters saying, oh, if you want to make money, get with this guy. And then, of course, you have referees such as Dan Miragliotta and Jason Herzog who constantly make very sus mistakes, have very sus finishes, and they still get used. And this is where it starts to get hairy for me, is there are quite literally thousands of people that are sanctioned and licensed to do this job, to referee, to judge, everything that involves with officiating a fight night. Why does the UFC fly Miragliotta, Herzog, other people? Why are those guys flown all over the world through different commissions in Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Nevada, Miami, California, Texas, New York, Mexico, France, England, like all over the world, China, all over the world? These guys are flown, these referees and judges are flown all over the world to ref these fights. And of course, Dana White always falls back on the commission chooses the judges, not us. That doesn't sound believable to me because I really don't think that the California State Athletic Commission or the Chinese MMA Commission or the French MMA Commission or the English MMA Commission, Dubai, whatever it is, that they necessarily care to fork up money that they're taking from events because they do get the commission does get a percentage of the gate. Why would they fork up money to fly Murgliata, Herzog, whoever, all over the world when they have local refs that are commissioned and sanctioned to work these fights? If it was really on the commission, this is just my opinion, if it was really on the commission, do you think that they would fly Murgliata, Herzog, whoever, to LA, Dubai, China, London, Paris? Or do you think they would use local judges that would cost them less money, that are sanctioned through them? Why? That makes me feel like the UFC, not the commissions, is choosing these judges. And why they're choosing these judges? You guys tell me, the guys that consistently make big mistakes. Why would you not want to give the new guys, the local guys, a chance? You have local guys that do really, really good work. So why are you having a cabal of 5 refs that are doing all the fights? Of course, you have the occasional local guy mixed in, and like when they do New Jersey or some shit like that, there was the buff guy, Gary Copeland. I remember he's like 5'2" on steroids and shit. That guy. Why are the same 5 refs flown all over the world? If it's on the commission, why are they doing that? Do you think Dan Murgliata or Jason Herzog, who has a history of such BS stoppages and big mistakes, or Sal D'Amato and Mike Bell, who make these atrocious scorecard mistakes, in my opinion, you think the commission wants those guys at their events? Or do you think it's the UFC? It seems interesting. It feels like we are peeling back the layers of a truly fucked up ring of shit going on right here, where managers are plugging people in with betting sponsors that pay everybody money, and then they bet their own money. And then you have these refs that could also be getting money to make sure that a fight goes a certain way or doesn't go a certain way. Again, just my opinion, not to be taken seriously. This is not meant to be taken seriously at all. This is just my opinion. I'm playing a character on a YouTube channel. Just spitballing, throwing a little info around, okay? It seems like we are peeling back the layers of something very sinister that could damage the integrity of this sport forever, especially when you consider that Dana White's gambling buddy, Steve Will Do It, bought a house for the fighter that is now embroiled in this betting scandal. So definitely the longest video I've done on my channel, but there was a lot to get to. Guys, let me know your thoughts down below. If you have any tips for me, anything like that, you have any tips or info you want to give me, of course I have to vet it, things like that. If you have any info for me, my contact email is in the description below this video. Again, one final time, this is all opinion, not to be taken seriously. But one thing you should take seriously is liking this video and clicking subscribe down below. My name is Wyatt. This is Fight Society. We'll see you next time. Do you want more from Fight Society? Like and subscribe below this video and click the join button to become a channel member today to get access to behind the scenes vlogs and members only live streams.